Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at foster care and adoption needs in Connecticut. My name is Jacqueline Ford. I have had the honor of working for the department for close to 30 years, and although I may be familiar with many of the topics I bring to you, I have invited experts in those fields to help dispel the myths and misconceptions that often act as barriers. Join us as we open our doors to an inside look at the Department of Children and Families.
Ashley, thank you so much for being on the Doors to Hope and Healing. It's such an honor for me to have you here. You're really one of my favorite people, and I say that because you really light up a room when you walk into a room with your positive outlook on life and your gratitude. And I know that your presence in other people's lives, because of that gift of resilience that you have, is going to impact so many people. And today, we're recognizing National Recovery Month, and we had a chance to talk before we came on set, and I think today is a pretty special day for you.
It is.
How many days clean have you been?
1,000.
Wow, 1,000 days.
Yeah, I have a little app on my phone, and it'll do a little like ba-ding every time it has a little milestone that it hits. And so as I was going to bed, it was like, it's coming up. So
wow, 1,000 days is a lot of days.
And I was sitting in so much has happened in 1,000 days. You don't realize how much can happen in that amount of time, and so much life that I've been able to experience that I never thought was even possible. I mean, hello.
Yes, here you are, right? Here you are on a TV station talking about your story, and I think that, talking, we're going to talk a lot about your story and bring you back to probably one of the most difficult days that you ever had. But I think that you need to always be mindful of how brave and courageous you are, because those 1,000 days weren't easy. No. and that was a lot of work that you did to keep sober for those many days, and to be focused on your children and on being healthy. And you being brave enough to be here today to talk about that is going to allow someone else to take that same journey that you've taken. And I thank you, because we at the Department of Children and Families, our goal is always to keep children together with their families when we can safely do so. And I know that you are a perfect example of what happens when a DCF staff, a regional office works closely with a client to provide them with all of the supports that they need to be successful and to be a healthy parent. Yeah. So before, we're going to talk about your battle and how you really won that battle. But if you can take us back to that painful day when you were in the emergency room, and probably at one of the lowest moments of your life, and take us there so that our viewers can understand how difficult this was.
I had, it was acute pancreatitis, and I was just drinking myself down the hole. There was no way out that I could see. I had tried reaching out, and I was met with, if you reach out to the wrong people, you're not going to get the right results. And I was so ill, and I just remember thinking, I don't want to leave my kids with this memory of me. And I just remember the nurse coming in, and the bravest thing I ever said and continue to say is, help me. I was so alone. I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to. I felt so isolated. And, I just released. You know, there was nothing else for me to do. You know, I had just masked and coded and tried to stuff it all down for years, and to be just open and raw was both exhausting and relieving. And when they originally told me that that they did have to contact DCF because I had young children at home, and you know, in my mind I was like, well, you know, I always waited until they were asleep, but that's not good. Just because they're asleep doesn't mean it's good for you.
So you were in the hospital and you were very vulnerable because you were very sick, and your 4 children were home. And how old were they at this time?
My youngest was, I believe, 3, so they were in between 3 to 13.
And they were home.
And they were home.
So you made the disclosure to the nurse, who is mandated by state law to, you know, contact the Child Welfare Agency, and DCF came to the hospital?
I believe a social worker came to the hospital, and then when I was released after I was, you know,
Healthy.
mended, they came to the house, and I really told them a lot of my issues. You know, drinking is like the after effect. You know, you drink to cover up trauma and stress and all those other things, and I had no way of coping with any of those things. And when I told them that, they were receptive. You know, they understood that that was the only thing that I knew and wanted to teach me a better way. And when I told them that, you know, I had very bad anxieties and that I had a hard time getting help because I had a hard time leaving my house, they actually came in, 3 beautiful women who I still think of today. They came in 3 times a week. And I mean, we did a family tree. We dove so far back, and they just helped me understand why certain things would trigger me, why I would, you know, be afraid of certain situations, and helping me find ways to cope with that wasn't shutting off or shutting down or going numb. You know, I used to search for that numb because I didn't know how to deal with everything around me, and they helped me appreciate the present and to be in the present. In my little sober app, it says, you know, like, why are you doing this? And it's because I love being present and want to continue that forever. And I missed out on so much, and DCF has helped me reclaim so much. You know, just in my interactions with you, helping my children get into summer camp, being able to learn that asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
I remember our interview a couple years ago now. I think it was over 2 years ago when I first met you. And I remember you saying that your interaction with DCF was actually a blessing in disguise. And now everything that you're talking about, you know, for our viewers that are watching, your children didn't go into foster care, which is what I believe that the mindset of our community may think would happen. You know, you have a mom who is, you know, disclosing that she has a drinking problem and she's not physically healthy. And I believe there were domestic violence issues at home as well at that time. But DCF, you know, you were courageous and you took a risk to be honest, and DCF took the risk in trusting that you wanted to work with us. And the 3 women that were in your home was through the family, that was the family-based recovery program. Yes. So they were working intensely with you inside of the home, so your children never had to leave.
No, they never had to leave. I was absolutely willing to do. They did like a breathalyzer test every time. I was totally willing to do that because, you know, I wanted my kids to see that you can make mistakes and you can get better. You know, I wanted them to see that that I was really trying. You know, it wasn't like well, I don't want to do that. Why do I need to get tested? It was like if this is what I need to do, then let's do it. Because what I was doing before was not working. And they were just incredible. They were, there were so many times, even when I would mess up and I would flounder, or, you know, I had a relapse, which is where my 1,000 days is counted from. I don't count from before that, I count from the night that I relapsed. And I had to tell them, and I was petrified, but they understood that it was a part of things, and we tried to pick lessons from it and take things that, like, okay, well, what was it that brought us there that we can change so we don't have to go back there again. And I didn't know how to do that on my own. I didn't have, we call it the toolbox.
Yeah, I was going to say your toolbox.
I did not have a toolbox. I was flying blind, working on, I was MacGyver in it, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And they gave me this amazing toolbox that I use with my teenager, you know, like calm down techniques, centering techniques, even just recognizing when a situation is no longer serving us the way that it should, you know, which I didn't even know that you could just take yourself out of. I just thought, this is my situation, I'm gonna make the best of it. I never thought that I could leave and make the best of it too. And they gave me a strength that I didn't know I had inside of me.
Well, they helped to empower your own strength, because you did have it inside of you all along, and you need to give yourself that credit, because you did all that hard work, but they were there by your side, and they helped you to learn those skills, so that you could, you know, knew how to use the tools in the toolbox, because you have to learn how to access all of those. So the 3 women that were from the family-based recovery program, they were in your life for, was it a year?
Yes, I actually stayed with the program a little longer. COVID hit, and so there was, you know, COVID. I was homeschooling the kids. I was going through a divorce, and I knew that, you know, I mean, I wanted to do it alone, because, you know, as a woman, you want to be able to do these things.
Sure.
But I knew that I needed support. And so I asked them if I could stay a little longer, and we actually did it over the video phone. And I was able to call them, you know, when something would happen, and I would be confused of why I was feeling a certain way, because you don't know what triggers you until you're triggered.
True.
So, you know, I would be seeing who's on call today, and oh, well, it's Bianca's turn, so I'm going to call Bianca. And, you know, and they never made me feel like a bother. They never made me feel insignificant. They never once discounted how I was feeling in my journey. They were very much present with me, even if the steps I took the next day were so small. They celebrated those small steps, and then they got bigger and bigger. And, you know, every now and then I'll you know, when my little bling goes off, I think about them, and I'm just like, I hope that they know that they saved me.
What a difference they made in your life.
Absolutely.
So it must have felt scary when you were done with that program.
Yeah, going on your own is scary, because then, you know, it's like, you know, when you first have a kid and you're in the hospital and the nurses are all there, and you have that little bit of security, and then you go home and you have this baby, and you're like, oh my gosh, I am completely responsible for this.
Yes.
And, you know, that's how it was with, you know, me staying alcohol free. This is my responsibility 100% now. And so I did ask to continue going to a therapist. I still see her every week, and she has been amazing. I think getting help for trauma and getting support to help work through things that you have been through is imperative as a parent, as a person in society. Like, I remember, you know, the first time I went to the grocery store by myself, and there was a woman there, and she was frantic, and, you know, I just, instead of getting combative, I felt for her, you know, you see another side, you know, and I was like, you know, we all have our bad days, and she's having a bad day, and it connects you more. And I love it. I love being connected to as many people as I can, you know.
Well, and you went through this this experience in your life during a very overwhelming time. I mean, COVID in itself, but you know, being a single mom and having these children at home and homeschooling them and COVID. So I'm glad that you had those supports and that you've been so successful, because it's been 1,000 days that you've been sober, but how long since DCF has closed their case?
You know, I'm not sure. It all just kind of seamlessly blended to better, you know. They did not take my training wheels off until I was ready, and I very much appreciated that.
Yeah.
So I don't really know when, you know, I mean, I still speak with you anytime that I find myself in a position where I'm not sure where to go next or what I can do next or how I can help my kids next. I always go back to, you know, who has helped me, and it's always been people within the organization, because even though you know, I don't speak to them every day, or even though they're not calling me and doing wellness checks, they're always open. You know, they're always willing to respond. You know, even, you know, going through my divorce, you know, DCF doesn't handle that.
No, we don't do that.
But they were able to say, well, there are women's centers near you, and I was able to get help that way. So it's little, like a tree that just branches out to all different places.
So that you could be self-sufficient, you know, and that is such a gift in itself, to be able to take care of yourself.
To be able to take care of my kids. You know, that was the biggest hoorah. You know, I did not have a proper education. I went to an alternative high school. I didn't have any college. I've been a stay-at-home mother since I was 21 years old. So I didn't know how on earth I was going to care for these 4 children. And look at me now.
Look at you now. Look at you now.
Yeah.
I remember a quote that you said, and it's actually the title of the special interest story I had written a long time ago on your story. But you said, "A whole new life has been given to me, and I am fiercely protective of it."
Oh, ain't that the truth?
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
And you are fiercely protective of it.
You have to be.
And you've done so much work to get there. What does that mean to you today? You know, you said that to me probably 2.5 years ago. How do you feel about that today?
I'm not gonna lie. At first, it's really lonely, because you have to sort through, and you have to find the people who truly celebrate you. You know, not the fun version of you, or not that, the people who see you as a whole and celebrate that. And those are the people that you need. You know, I still have, you know, friends and acquaintances that I love seeing, but I don't put myself in situations that I know are going to trigger me or affect me, or just even make myself uncomfortable. One of the things, and I have to start doing it again, but when I did yoga for a little bit, it was talking about taking up space. And I had never done that before. And taking up space and keeping that space safe is a project in itself. But when you are able to successfully do that, so many doors open up for you, because you can see what is healthy and what's not. And the more you follow the healthy things, the people who celebrate you, the people who respect the decisions that you make in life, the world opens up. You know, you stop hitting these, it was just dead end. And when I started to appreciate my space and respect my space and enforce that, you know, you talk a lot about boundaries. And when you start to, because at first I felt like a bad guy, you know, like, oh, I'm saying no.
Right.
But when you learn the power in no, it's
freeing.
It is so
I can imagine it's freeing. Ashley, before we end our show today, it goes so fast, and there's so much more I want to ask you. But before we end our show today, if you were on the stage and you had an opportunity to talk to, a whole group of moms who maybe on that very day DCF became involved with their lives, and they felt terrified that this powerful agency is in their lives, what message could you relay to them to just rest their minds assured of the days that are ahead of them?
Embrace their power, because you're absolutely right. They're a powerful organization, and they can open your world to things that you did not think were available. It is frightening to be that vulnerable, because since my children are my life, when people ask me, well, what do you do for a living? I'm a mother.
Yes, first and foremost.
That is who
Yes.
I am to my core. And so the thought of losing them, I wouldn't know what to do with myself, because they are everything. And to know that to this organization, they are everything too. Those women came in and, they talked with my children. They were friends. They weren't this, restricting force. They were a very well-needed hug and an embrace, and they picked us up. So embrace it. Embrace the journey. Even if you've only had a day, my 1,000 days started with that one day, and I felt terrible on that first day.
Sure
I felt
you
like
did.
garbage, but I don't on this day,
Oh.
and I get to look back on that, and I am here, and I'm with you, and my children are doing amazing in school. I am the den leader.
Oh,
in
you
my son's
are?
Cub Scouts.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So it's just, and kind of like in the military, and embrace the suck, embrace the journey, because they saved me.
What happened to you that day in the hospital wasn't a moment that defined you. What defines you is all that work that you did to get to where you are today.
The moment in the hospital that defined me was asking for help. It was recognizing that I did everything I could on my own, and I could not. That was what defined me, and I tell my children all the time, if you are stuck, ask for help. There are so many helpers out there, and I guess I didn't realize that. I just was so jaded, but asking for help was and will be continuously
Yes.
the bravest thing you could ever do.
And you were so brave and courageous, and I'm so proud of you today. And now you're a helper, and you will no doubt be able to help other moms that are in similar situations. So thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for helping me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you so much for watching. And now we'll show you a short video of a child who's looking for their forever home. Thank you.
To embrace all different type of ethnic or religion differences.
My mom didn't care what color skin I was or where I came from. As long as you can offer child love and you can offer that child respect, that's what they need.
Regardless of your gender, your race, your sexuality, be a foster parent.
It's not what a foster home looks like, it's what a foster home can give us.
Any home is a good home, as long as there's love and support.
If you can provide food and clothes and love for a child, then it's a perfect home.
You could make a difference in that child's life, and they could make a difference in your life.
I have absolutely no idea what my life would have turned out if I didn't end up in the foster care system. Foster parents made that difference.
Riverview Apartments is Bristol's 2-time beautification award-winning residence community for adults age 55 and older. They offer 1 or 2-bedroom apartments with modern appliances, air conditioning, wall-to-wall carpet, and tiled floors. Both heat and hot water are included. Riverview also offers a wide range of activity rooms that include a billiard parlor and a spacious community room. It is handicap accessible with safe, secure parking for tenants and ample off-street parking for visitors. 860-940-6757 or riverviewbristol.com.